My parents put my name on my brother's $320,000 mortgage without telling me, so I took action. That left them facing a consequence they never imagined. I'm a 31-year-old male mechanical engineer for a major oil company in Houston. I make around 165,000 plus bonuses. I grew up middle class but worked my butt off to get where I am. I got a full ride to Texas A&M. I graduated magna cum laude. I have been climbing the corporate ladder ever since. My family dynamic is complicated. Dad is a retired electrician. Mom worked as a school secretary until she retired. They are good people, but they have one massive blind spot. My younger brother, Danny. Danny is 27 and has been a gambling addict since college. It started with fantasy football, moved to online poker, then sports betting, then casino trips to Louisiana every weekend. The guy cannot walk past a scratch-off ticket without buying 5. He has blown through inheritance money from our grandparents, maxed out every credit card he has ever had, and borrowed money from everyone who is dumb enough to lend it to him. But here's the thing about gambling addicts. They are master manipulators. Danny could convince you the sky was green if it meant getting money for his next bet. I have watched him spin tales about sure-thing investments, insider tips from his bookie friends, and elaborate schemes involving card counting that never worked. And our parents, they fell for it every single time. He is getting better. He is going to meetings now. This time is different. He just needs one more chance. I had heard it all before. The cycle was always the same. Danny would lose big, come crying to mom and dad with some sob story about rent money or car repairs. They would give him cash, and within a week, he would have blown it all on online betting sites. Then the cycle would repeat. I remember one Christmas when Danny showed up with expensive gifts for everyone. Designer perfume for mom, a fancy tool set for dad, some high-end headphones for me. It turned out he had hit big on a football parlay and decided to play the generous son. 2 weeks later, he was asking to borrow money for groceries. That is why I moved to Houston after college and kept my distance. I would send money home for mom's birthday or Christmas, but I learned early not to get involved in Danny's financial disasters. Every time I tried to help, the money just disappeared into some online casino or sports betting app. That was my biggest mistake. It was a Thursday morning, 8:15 a.m. I am in my truck heading to a job site when my phone rings. Unknown number with a local area code. Normally I would let it go to voicemail, but we had contractors calling about a big project, so I picked up Mr. Rodriguez. This is Patricia from First National Bank. I am calling regarding your mortgage account for the property at 1247 Oak Valley Lane. Your account is now 75 days past due, and we need to discuss immediate payment to avoid foreclosure proceedings. I pulled over to the side of the road. Ma'am, I think you have the wrong number. I do not have a mortgage with your bank. Sir, according to our records, you co-signed for a $320,000 mortgage in March of last year. The property is registered to Daniel Rodriguez, with you listed as the co-signer and guarantor. My blood went cold, Danny. Oak Valley Lane was in the subdivision where my parents lived, about 3 blocks from their house. I knew that street. It was one of the newer developments with houses in the $300,000 range. Way more than Danny could ever afford, on his sporadic income from whatever odd jobs he managed to keep for a few weeks at a time. Ma'am, I never co-signed anything. I have never even been to your bank. I understand your confusion, Mr. Rodriguez, but we have all the documentation here. Your signature, social security number, employment verification, income statements. The loan was approved based on your creditworthiness as the cosigner. This is fraud. I need you to email me every document you have immediately. She hesitated. Sir, I cannot just email sensitive financial documents to someone without proper verification. Ma'am, if someone forged my signature to get a $320,000 loan, this is a federal crime. Either you email me those documents right now, or I am calling the FBI and your bank is going to be part of a criminal investigation that got her attention. Let me verify your identity first. Then I can send the documents. 10 minutes later, the documents hit my inbox. I sat in my truck in a Whataburger parking lot staring at my phone screen in disbelief. There was my name printed. Clearly. Miguel Rodriguez, my social security number. My employment information, correct? Company name, correct. Job title, correct salary, a signature that looked exactly like mine, even a copy of my driver's license. But I had never seen any of these documents before in my life. The mortgage was for a house 3 blocks from my parents. The borrower was listed as Daniel Rodriguez, my brother. The cosigner was listed as me. The loan amount was $320,000 with a monthly payment of $2,387. The down payment had been $25,000. I scrolled through the employment verification section. Someone had called my company's HR department pretending to be a loan officer and verified my employment salary and length of service. The documentation looked completely legitimate, but the signature analysis I did on my phone told a different story. The signature looked close, but the pen pressure was wrong. The way the am curved in Miguel was slightly off. Someone had practiced my signature, probably using examples from birthday cards or Christmas checks I had sent home over the years. I called in sick to work and drove straight to my parents' house. This could not wait. I did not call ahead. I just showed up at 11 a.m. with a folder full of printed bank documents and a recording app ready on my phone. Mom answered the door in her bathrobe, looking surprised. Miguel, what are you doing here? Why are you not at work? We need to talk. Where is Dad? Where is Danny? Your father is in the garage working on Mrs. Peterson's lawnmower. Danny is at work. Well, he said he had a job interview this morning. Classic mom. Always making excuses for Danny. A job interview that probably did not exist. Get Dad now and call Danny. Tell him to get over here immediately. Mom's face went pale. She knew that tone. I had used it exactly twice before. Once when I caught Danny stealing money from her purse for lottery tickets, and once when I found out Dad had been lending Danny money to cover his gambling debts. Dad came in from the garage, wiping grease off his hands. Miguel, what is going on? Son, you look like someone died. I spread the mortgage documents across their kitchen table. The same table where we had had family dinners for 20 years, where Dad had taught me to balance a checkbook. I need one of you to explain to me how Danny got a $320,000 mortgage with me as the co-signer when I have never signed anything. The silence was deafening. Dad's face went white. Mom sat down hard, her coffee mug shaking in her hands. Miguel, Dad started, then stopped. Do not tell me the truth right now. Mom started crying. We did not know what else to do. Danny was going to lose the house. The bank said he needed a co-signer with better credit. So you forged my signature. We did not forge anything, Dad said quickly. We signed for you as your parents. We thought we had the right. You have the right, Dad. I am 31 years old. You would have said no, Mom whispered. You are darn right, I would have said no. That is when Danny walked in. He took one look at the papers and his face told me everything. No surprise, just resignation. Oh, this is about the house, yeah. Danny, the $320,000 house that you bought using my credit without my permission. He shrugged and grabbed a soda from the refrigerator like we were discussing the weather. I was going to tell you, eventually you were going to tell me that you committed fraud. It is not fraud, man. We are family. Besides, I have been making the payments. He popped open the soda with that same cocky attitude he had had since high school. I looked at the bank notice. Danny, you are 75 days behind. That is temporary. I had some bad luck at the casino last month, but March Madness is coming up and I have got this system. Bad luck at the casino. Danny, are you seriously telling me you are behind on a mortgage payment because you gambled the money away? Dad stepped in. Miguel, you do not understand. Danny has got this new system for betting on sports. It is calculated scientific. A system for gambling. Dad, gambling addiction is not a career. It is not gambling, Danny said defensively. It is investing. I have been studying sports analytics probability theory. I am up $12,000 this month alone. If you are up to $12,000, why is the mortgage behind? Because I reinvested the winnings. You have to think long-term, Miguel. I am building capital for bigger bets. I stared at my brother. He was completely serious. In his mind, he was some kind of financial genius. Not a gambling addict who just defaulted on a fraudulent mortgage. Danny, how much do you owe in gambling debts right now? He looked at Mom and Dad, then back at me. Maybe like $30,000. But that is just short-term credit. Once my system pays off $30,000. Miguel, please do not yell. Mom said the neighbors will hear? Mom, I do not care about the neighbors. Your son owes $30,000 in gambling debts, and he is defaulting on a mortgage that he fraudulently put in my name. We will figure it out, Dad said as always. No, we will not. I am calling the bank and telling them this was fraud. You cannot do that. Mom said, panicking. Danny could go to jail. Good. Maybe that is exactly what needs to happen. Danny finally looked worried. Miguel. Come on, man. Family does not do that to family. Family does not commit fraud against family either. Danny, look, I will catch up on the payments. Just give me a couple months. I have got this new strategy for baseball season. I started packing up the documents. Danny, you have been gambling for 8 years. You have never had a strategy that worked. You are an addict. I am not an addict. I am an investor who has had some bad luck. Dad, I said, what if we helped with the payments? Your mother and I could take out a second mortgage. Use our retirement savings, Dad. You are retired on a fixed income. You cannot afford a $2,400 mortgage payment. We will figure something out. I am calling the bank tomorrow and reporting this as fraud. Then I am calling the police. Mom started crying harder. Please do not send your brother to jail. Mom, Danny sent himself to jail the minute he forged my signature. We forged your signature, Dad said quietly. If anyone goes to jail, it should be us. I looked at my father, this man who had worked construction for 30 years, who taught me about integrity, who had never taken a shortcut in his life. Dad? Why? Why would you do this? Because he is our son, Miguel. And sometimes you do stupid things for your kids when you love them, even if it destroys your other son's life. Dad looked down at his hands. We thought you would never find out. I stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? Mom asked to get a lawyer and then to call the FBI. Miguel, please, Danny said, following me. Just give me one more chance. I will go to rehab, whatever you want. I turned around. Danny, how many one more chances have you had? How many times have Mom and Dad bailed you out? This is different. It is always different, Danny, but it is never actually different. I walked out and drove home, but I did not call the FBI that night. Instead, I sat up until 3 a.m., researching mortgage fraud, cosigner liability, and my legal options. What I found out was going to change everything. The next morning, I called in sick again and drove to downtown Houston to meet with an attorney who specialized in financial fraud. The consultation cost me $400, but it was the best money I had ever spent. The law office was in one of those glass towers downtown, all marble and mahogany and degrees on the wall. My attorney was sharp, mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of guy who had probably sent a few white-collar criminals to federal prison. Mr. Rodriguez, my attorney said after reviewing all the documents, this is textbook mortgage fraud. Your signature was forged, your income was misrepresented without your consent, and you never agreed to be a cosigner. This is a federal crime with serious penalties. What are my options? You can report it as fraud and have the authorities investigate and prosecute your family members. You will be removed from the loan and will not be legally responsible for the debt. And if I do not report it, then you are legally responsible for a $320,000 mortgage on a house you do not own, do not live in, and never wanted. If your brother defaults, which he already has, the bank can come after you personally for the full amount, plus penalties and interest. Can they garnish my wages? Absolutely. They can take your house, your car, freeze your bank accounts, destroy your credit rating. You would be financially devastated. Given your income, they would probably garnish the maximum amount allowed by law until the debt is satisfied. I sat back in his leather chair and thought about it. What happens to my family if I reported your parents and brother would likely face federal charges for conspiracy to commit mortgage fraud? We are talking about potential prison time, maybe 2 to 5 years each, depending on their criminal history and level of cooperation with authorities and the house. The bank would initiate immediate foreclosure proceedings. Your brother would lose the property and probably still owe money if it sells for less than the mortgage balance. I thanked my attorney and drove home to think. But that evening, I did something I had not done in years. I researched Danny's gambling history online. What I found made me physically sick. Danny had active accounts on at least 6 different online sports betting sites. His social media was full of screenshots of big wins. But if you looked closely at the dates and context, the wins were always followed by posts about needing money for rent car repairs or other emergencies. I found a forum where people talked about gambling debts and strategies for borrowing money. Danny had posted there under a username I recognized from his old Xbox account, the same one he had used since high school. One post from 6 months ago read, "My brother makes good money, but he is stingy with family. How do I get him to help without asking directly? Need ideas." Another post from 4 months ago. "Is it illegal if your parents co-sign something for you using someone else's name?" Asking for a friend. And the most damaging one from 2 months ago successfully got approved for big loan using family members' credit. Now I just need to keep making payments until I hit it big. What are the odds they find out he had been planning this for months? This was not desperation or a moment of weakness. This was a calculated scheme. That is when I realized this was not just addiction. This was premeditated fraud. Danny knew exactly what he was doing, and my parents had helped him do it. I made my decision. The next morning, I called Patricia at the bank back. "Miss Patricia, this is Miguel Rodriguez. I called yesterday about the mortgage fraud." "Yes, Mr. Rodriguez, have you had a chance to review the documents I have? And I need to report this as identity theft and fraud. I never signed those documents, never applied for that loan, and never gave permission for anyone to use my name or personal information. Sir, that is a very serious accusation with significant legal implications. Yes, it is. I need to know what your bank's procedure is for reporting this type of fraud. Well, we would need to launch an internal investigation. You would need to file a formal fraud report with us and with law enforcement. We would also need to involve our legal department and potentially federal authorities. What happens to the current loan during the investigation? The account would be frozen immediately pending the outcome of the investigation. And what happens to the borrower? My brother, if fraud is confirmed, a loan would be declared null and void. The property would go into immediate foreclosure proceedings. I understand. I would like to file that fraud report today. Mr. Rodriguez, I have to ask, are you absolutely certain about this? These types of investigations can have serious consequences for everyone involved, including potential criminal charges. Ma'am, someone used my identity to obtain a $320,000 loan without my knowledge or consent. Those are already serious consequences for me. I understand. Can you come in this afternoon with all relevant documentation? I will be there at 2 p.m. But before I went to the bank, I decided to make one more trip to see my family. I wanted to give them a chance to come clean voluntarily. Maybe if they confessed and showed genuine remorse, I would consider handling this differently. I found Dad in the garage, Mom in the kitchen, and Danny on the couch playing video games like nothing had happened. I'm going to the bank this afternoon to file a fraud report. I announced. Danny paused his game and looked up. You are really going to do this? Yes, even though it will destroy the whole family. Danny, you destroyed the family when you committed fraud against me. It was not supposed to be fraud. It was supposed to be temporary. Just until I could get my finances straightened out. How was stealing my identity supposed to be temporary? Mom came out of the kitchen, wringing her hands with that worried expression she had worn my whole childhood. Whenever one of us was in trouble, Miguel, what if we all went to the bank together? Explain the situation, or maybe they would work with us as a family, Mom. The situation is that you committed a federal crime. But we are family, Dad said, emerging from the garage. Families work things out together. Dad, if I do not report this, I am responsible for Danny's mortgage forever. If he stops paying, and he already has, they can take everything I own to satisfy the debt. We will not let that happen, Mom said desperately. Poor Mom, you are going to pay a $400 mortgage every month on your retirement income. We will figure something out. Maybe we can refinance this house, take out a loan against our life insurance. With what money, Danny owes $30,000 in gambling debts right now. How's he going to make mortgage payments when he cannot even pay his bookies? Danny stood up from the couch, finally looking serious. I told you I have got a system now. I'm going to win that money back and get caught up. Danny, you have been gambling for 8 years. When have you ever won money back long term? This time is different. I have been studying the odds, learning from my mistakes. It is never different, Danny. You are addicted. You need professional help. I do not need help. I need my family to support me instead of trying to destroy me. Support you. Danny, I have been supporting you for years. I have given this family over $25,000 over the past 5 years. Because you kept gambling away your rent money and car payments. That was different. How was it different? Because you gave that money willingly and now you have taken $320,000 without asking. It is not the same thing. I looked around the room at these 3 people who had raised me, who had taught me right from wrong, who had somehow convinced themselves that stealing my identity was acceptable because it was for family. I am going to the bank, I said. I'm filing the fraud report? Then I'm calling the FBI. Miguel, Mom said, please. What if Danny pays back the missing payments? What if he gets help for the gambling? Mom, it is too late for that. It is never too late for family. You are right, Mom. It is never too late for family. That is why you should have thought about family before you stole from me. As I walked to my truck, Danny followed me outside. Miguel? Wait, let me ask you something. How much is your monthly take-home after taxes and everything? Why does that matter? Just tell me about 8 to 5 and how much do you spend every month on living expenses? I do not know. Maybe $4,000. So you are saving like $4,500 every month. Danny, what is your point? My point is $2. $400 a month for this mortgage is nothing to you. You spend more than that on your truck, payment, and insurance. I stared at him in disbelief. Danny, are you seriously asking me to pay for a house that you bought by stealing my identity? I am asking you to help your brother who made a mistake. A mistake, Danny. You did not accidentally sign my name. You planned this for months. I found your online post. Okay, fine. But I am still your brother. No, Danny brothers do not steal from each other. You were just a gambling addict who happens to share my last name. That afternoon, I walked into First National Bank with a folder full of evidence and a digital recorder in my pocket. Patricia met me in a conference room with two other bank officials, a manager, and someone from their legal department. Mr. Rodriguez, Patricia said, "We appreciate you coming in to discuss the situation. Before we start," I said, "I want to make sure we are all clear about what we are discussing. Someone used my identity to fraudulently obtain a $320,000 mortgage loan. This is a federal crime." The legal person nodded seriously. "We understand the gravity of the allegation." "Good. I have brought comprehensive documentation proving that I never applied for this loan, never signed these documents, and never gave permission for anyone to use my name or personal information." I opened my folder and started laying out evidence methodically, my detailed work schedule showing I was on a job site in Louisiana the day the loan was supposedly signed. A professional forensic signature analysis. I had paid $800 for showing the signatures did not match my verified samples. Screenshots from Danny's social media showing him bragging about his new house and posting pictures of the keys. Bank records showing the down payment came from my parents' savings account, not Danny's printouts of Danny's online forum post discussing the fraud scheme. "This is quite thorough," the manager said, looking increasingly uncomfortable. "I am an engineer. I believe in proper documentation and evidence," Mr. Rodriguez, the legal person, said. "Assuming we confirmed fraud occurred. What outcome are you seeking? I want my name removed from this loan immediately. I want it reported to the appropriate authorities as fraud. And I want to make sure this can never happen to me or anyone else again. We can certainly remove you from the loan if fraud is confirmed, but you understand this would trigger immediate foreclosure proceedings. I understand, and your brother would lose the house. I understand, and your family would likely face serious criminal charges. I understand that too." Patricia leaned forward. "Mr. Rodriguez, this seems like a family matter that got out of hand. Are you sure you want to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law?" That is when I gave them the response that left them speechless. "Let me tell you what I'm sure about," I said, looking each of them directly in the eye. "I am sure that my brother is a gambling addict who is systematically destroyed. His credit by betting away every dollar he has ever earned. I am sure that my parents helped him commit fraud because they are enablers who have been covering for his addiction for years instead of getting him real help. I am sure that if I do not report this crime, I will be financially responsible for a mortgage on a house I will never live in for a debt I never agreed to take on." I paused and pulled out my phone, but here is what I am most sure. About 3 hours ago, I called the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and filed a formal complaint. "Special Agent Williams is expecting your call within 24 hours. The room went dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. "I also called the Texas Department of Banking and filed a complaint about your bank's lending practices. How exactly does a reputable financial institution approve a $320,000 mortgage without properly verifying that the co-signer actually signed the documents?" The manager's face went pale. "And one more thing," I continued calmly. "I called the district attorney's office and spoke with the prosecutor who handles mortgage fraud cases. They are very interested in this case, especially the part where my brother posted about his plans on social media 6 months before committing the actual fraud." I stood up and closed my folder. "So, yes, I am absolutely sure I want to pursue this to the fullest extent because the only thing worse than being the victim of a crime is being the victim of a crime and doing nothing about it." The legal person finally spoke. "Mr. Rodriguez, we will need to conduct our own investigation." "No, you misunderstand. The investigation is already happening. The FBI will be here Monday morning with federal warrants for all loan documents, security camera footage, and employee interviews. I am not here to start an investigation. I am here to inform you that you are already part of one." I headed for the door, then turned back. "Oh, and one more thing. When you call my brother to tell him about the foreclosure, you might want to mention that his internet search history is part of the federal investigation. Apparently, researching how to forge signatures and mortgage fraud penalties was not very smart." The manager stood up quickly. "Mr. Rodriguez, surely we can work something out. The time for working something out was before your bank approved a fraudulent loan. Now you get to work it out with federal investigators." I walked out of that bank feeling better than I had in weeks, but the real satisfaction was still coming. The FBI moved faster than I expected. By Wednesday of the following week, they had executed search warrants on my parents' house, Danny's house, and the bank's records. What they found was much worse than I had imagined. Danny had not just committed mortgage fraud. He had been running a systematic scheme for over a year. They found forged documents with my signature on 3 different loan applications at various banks. Multiple fake pay stubs showing me earning $200,000 per year at a company that did not exist. Screenshots of my social media that he had been using to prove my lifestyle matched the income claims. Detailed text message conversations between him and my parents. Planning out the fraud step-by-step internet search history, including how long before mortgage fraud is discovered and can family members prosecute each other. A handwritten notebook with my personal information and practice signatures. But the most damaging evidence was what they found on Danny's computer. A detailed Excel spreadsheet tracking his gambling losses over the past 2 years. Total amount, $127,000. The mortgage was not his first fraud. It was just the biggest one. He had been using my identity for smaller scams for months. My parents got arrested on Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Danny got arrested Friday afternoon at a casino in Louisiana where he had gone to win back the mortgage money. All 3 were charged with conspiracy to commit mortgage fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. The local news picked up the story. Houston family arrested for $320,000 mortgage fraud scheme. My phone started ringing constantly. Relatives, family, friends, people from the old neighborhood, even some of my coworkers who had seen the news. Half of them were angry at me for destroying the family. The other half were shocked that my parents and Danny had done something so incredibly stupid. My Uncle Carlos called me on Saturday morning, his voice shaking with anger. "Miguel, what the heck is going on? Your parents are in jail. They committed fraud." "Uncle Carlos, they used my name to get Danny a mortgage loan without my permission. But they are your parents, man. Family does not do this to family. Family does not steal from family either. Cannot you just drop the charges? Work this out privately. I cannot drop federal charges. That is not how the legal system works. But you could have chosen not to report it in the first place. Uncle Carlos, if I had not reported it, I would be responsible for a $320,000 debt for a house I do not own. They would have completely destroyed my financial life. Your parents would never let that happen to you. My parents already let it happen when they committed fraud in the first place." That afternoon, my mom's sister called me crying hysterically. "Miguel, your mother is devastated. She is in jail because of you and Maria. She is in jail because she committed a crime. She was just trying to help Danny get his life together. By stealing from me, you make good money. You could afford to help your brother. I do help my brother. I have given this family $25,000 over the past 5 years, but this was not asking for help. This was theft. It is still family, no Aunt Maria. Family asks for help when they need it. Criminals steal what they want and hope they do not get caught." By Monday, the bank had officially started foreclosure proceedings on Danny's house. The local newspaper ran a follow-up story about the family mortgage fraud scheme that included interviews with neighbors saying they had always wondered how Danny could afford such a nice house without a steady job. Tuesday morning, I got a call from the county jail. Danny wanted to talk. "Miguel, man, please, you have got to help me here. Help you?" I'll tell them this was all a misunderstanding, that you knew about the loan but forgot about it. "Danny, that would be perjury. I would go to jail too." "Come on, man. We are brothers. Brothers do not steal from each other. I was going to pay it back eventually. With what money you owe $127,000 in gambling debts? How do you know that exact amount?" "The FBI found your spreadsheet, Danny. They know everything about your gambling losses, your debts, your schemes, everything. Miguel, please. I will go to rehab. I will get help. I will pay you back every penny. How are you going to pay me back from federal prison? Prison, they said I might get probation if you do not push for maximum charges. Danny, you committed federal fraud. You are going to federal prison? For how long? My attorney says probably 3 to 5 years. Mom and Dad might get 2 to 3 years each." The line went quiet for a long moment. "Miguel, you are really going to let your own parents go to prison?" "Danny, our parents are going to prison because they chose to commit crimes. I did not make that choice for them, but you could fix this if you wanted to." "No, Danny, the only person who could have fixed this was you. By not gambling away money you did not have and not stealing my identity to get more money to gamble away. What am I supposed to do now? Serve your sentence, get clean, and never contact me again." I hung up. The plea hearings were scheduled for 6 months later. My parents' attorney contacted my attorney about a possible deal. They would plead guilty to reduce charges if I agreed to not pursue civil damages. My response was simple: no deal. At the hearing, all 3 of them pleaded guilty to federal fraud charges. The judge was not sympathetic to their situation. Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez, he said to my parents, you violated the fundamental trust of your own son to enable your other son's gambling addiction instead of getting him professional help. You chose to commit serious crimes. You are each sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, followed by 2 years of supervised probation. Mr. Daniel Rodriguez, you systematically defrauded financial institutions and stole your brother's identity to fund your gambling addiction. Your actions could have destroyed your brother's financial future. You are sentenced to 4 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation as they were led away in handcuffs. Mom looked at me one last time. She mouthed the words, I am sorry. I nodded acknowledgement, but I did not forgive her. After the sentencing, the bank contacted me about the foreclosed property. Mr. Rodriguez, we understand this situation has been difficult for your family. If you are interested, we would be willing to sell you the property at a significant discount. The house was appraised at $320,000. They offered it to me for $240,000. I countered with $200,000. Cash close in 30 days. They accepted immediately. A month later, I owned Danny's house. I spent $15,000 renovating it. New carpet, fresh paint, updated appliances. Then I rented it out for $2,800 per month to a nice family with excellent credit. But that is not the end of the story. 8 months into their sentences, Mom called me from federal prison. Miguel, please. I need help with my commissary account. Everything here is so expensive and the food is terrible. How much do you need? Just $100 for basic things like decent soap and toothpaste. Mom, do you remember what you told me when I asked why you did not just ask me for help instead of committing fraud? What do you mean? You said I would have said no, that I was too selfish to help family in need. Miguel, I was wrong. I was desperate and scared and wrong. You were right, Mom. If Danny had asked me to co-sign a mortgage so he could gamble away more money, I would have said no. But this is different. This is just basic necessities for survival. No, Mom, this has consequences. You chose to steal from me instead of asking for help. Now you get to live with the results of that choice. Miguel, please, I am your mother. My mother would not have stolen my identity to enable my brother's gambling addiction. I hung up. Dad called 2 weeks later. Son, your mother is having a really hard time in there. The other inmates are rough and she is scared. Cannot you help her out? Just a little. Dad, you taught me that actions have consequences. You taught me that stealing is wrong. You taught me to take responsibility for my mistakes. I know, but so take responsibility for yours. Miguel, we are still family. Dad, we stopped being family when you chose Danny's gambling addiction over my financial security. What if we pay you back when we get out? Every penny with what money you mortgaged your house to pay for Danny's legal fees. We will figure something out. Get jobs, sell things. No, Dad, you will figure something out. I am done figuring things out for this family. Danny called me last month from prison. Miguel, I have been clean for 18 months now. I am going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings every day. I am a completely different person. Good for you. I want to make amends. I want to pay you back for everything I cost you. How much do you think you owe me? I do not know. Maybe $50,000 for the trouble and legal fees. Danny, you cost me $15,000 in attorney fees, $5,000 in forensic accounting and investigation costs, and about 200 hours of my time dealing with this mess, plus emotional damages and the stress you put me through. How much is that total? My attorney calculated it at $127,000, the exact amount you lost gambling over 2 years. I do not have that kind of money. I know that is why I bought your house. You bought my house? Yep. Got it for $200,000 at the foreclosure auction. Put $15,000 into renovations. It is worth about $340,000 now. You are making money off my house. I am making money off the house you bought with my stolen identity. The house you lost because you could not stop gambling long enough to make the payments. That is messed up, man. Danny, you want to know what is messed up? What is messed up is a gambling addict stealing his brother's identity to buy a house, then losing it because he bet the mortgage payments on fantasy football. I'm not that person anymore. Prove it. Stay clean for 5 years. Get a real job when you get out. Pay your own bills. Then maybe we can talk. And until then, enjoy the 3 more years you have left in federal prison. Yesterday, I got my monthly rental check from Danny's old house. $2,800. I have collected over $30,000 in rent so far. The house is appreciated to $350,000. My total profit on their fraud about $125,000 and counting. Sometimes people ask me if I regret prosecuting my own family, if I think I was too harsh or unforgiving. The answer is absolutely not. They did not think of me as family when they stole from me. They thought of me as a piggy bank, someone whose credit and identity they could use to solve Danny's gambling problems without consequences. They were wrong about the consequences. Every month when I deposit that rental check, I remember something important. Enablers only exist when their victims let them. I did not let them. And now they get to live with the consequences while I profit from their crimes. Justice is not just about punishment. Sometimes it is about turning your attackers' weapons against them. They used my identity to commit fraud. I used their fraud to build wealth. Turns out I learned more from their crime than they did.